Good. Hello, and welcome to another episode of The Missing Link in Your Healing, the podcast where we bring you the parts that you might not know or might not be obvious to you in order to help yourself heal physically. We pride ourselves on bringing you a holistic view and bringing pieces of the healing puzzle to broaden your mind and help you heal from within. So I'm delighted to have Janet Gourand. I hope I pronounced your name right, Janet.
Yes, very well.
Okay, good. As a guest today, and we're going to talk about the topic of the real truth about alcohol and your physical and mental health. So I have to preface this yet again. I think it's the third episode in 10 that Loretta and I decided to do, which we said we'd never do, because we kind of assume that eating and vitamins and exercise and alcohol are things that people know that they need to do to be healthy. So we try and bring the more social, emotional, psychological stuff to physical healing and energetic, because those are the missing pieces for a lot of people. Because we cannot look at our body in isolation from our mind and our emotions, from our past, from our unconscious programming running our show, from our current environment we live in and our relationships. So that's what we're all about. So why is Janet here and why are we talking about this? Well, I've had a dance with alcohol for a long time, from my 20s. And I kept on trying to moderate and I couldn't. So I eventually joined a sobriety group called Tribe Sober, which Janet started and of which she's the leader. And I haven't been drinking for 3 months now. I think I started on about the 12th of March. And this stuff, I've just realized how this fits in. There's so much of what we're going to talk about that fits in with the whole puzzle of what Loretta and I bring out for physical, mental health, because they all go together. So Janet, without any further blah, blah, I'm going to hand over to you and ask you to just tell us who you are rather than me introducing you, your story, how you got to the point of being this amazing person running an international tribe from Cape Town.
Okay, Antoinette. Well, thank you very much for having me on your show. Well, I'm a Brit and I had a very happy life, really, in London for many years. I was very into my career. And then in the year 2000, my husband and I decided to come to Cape Town for a holiday. I mean, it was just a little holiday over December because we were so fed up with the cold in the UK. So we came over here and we just fell in love with Cape Town, in a sentence. And we were both kind of getting a bit jaded with the corporate lifestyle, and we were getting to an age when we were thinking about, well, what's next? What are we going to do? And it's second marriage, and we both have our children from each side. They were all adult, really, so they didn't need us like they used to need us. And we just started talking about relocating. And then we looked at a few houses and we ended up falling in love with a house. And we literally bought it while we were on holiday, which is a mad story. So our idea obviously was just to use it as a holiday home. So we came back and forth and back and forth. And eventually we thought, why do we keep going back? And we were able to extricate ourselves from our corporate careers. And we moved here permanently in 2001, and we got our permanent residency, and we love it here. We've been very happy ever since. So alongside all this, I better share my drinking story briefly. So I started drinking as a teenager. I enjoyed it. I took to it very enthusiastically, and then carried on drinking in my 20s. I had a bit of a wake-up call at the age of 25 when I was hosting a party at my apartment with some other ladies that shared the apartment. And I just got really, really drunk. And I ended up deciding at about midnight that I was going to have a bath. before I went to bed, because I always used to do that. I was on automatic pilot. I was in a blackout. So I went into the bathroom, locked the door, got in the bath and passed out. And it's only because my flatmate was a bit worried. She could see what a state I was in. So she just knocked on the door. She said, "Are you okay?" And she got no reply. So she dialed 999. So we got the fire brigade came to break the door down. And then the medics had to resuscitate me because I drowned, basically. I was just on the verge of going. So that should have been a massive wake-up call. And in fact, I stayed in hospital overnight, and they sent me a shrink to my bedside the next morning that asked why I tried to kill myself. And I said I hadn't. I was fine. I was just having fun, I had a glass too many. And we made it into a joke. And when I look back now, I think, oh, God, how crazy, because it was such a close call. But we just turned it into a joke, myself and my friends. It was, "Oh, did you hear about Jana and her bath? What an idiot. Ha, ha, ha." So anyway, life carried on. I didn't have that kind of episode again in my 20s. I was drinking steadily, but nothing hectic. And then when I was 30, I got married to another heavy drinker. And we just had that kind of lifestyle. We both had really good jobs. But we were, looking back, I think we were already functioning alcoholics, because we'd get home from work and we'd have a couple of shots of Jack Daniels, and then we'd always have a bottle of wine with dinner. Weekends, all our friends were drinkers, of course, and we'd have these long dinner parties that went on till 3:00 in the morning, and I still remember all the bottles the next morning. It was that kind of relationship. And I had a son when I was 30. I did manage to quit drinking for 9 months when I was pregnant, because obviously I was worried about doing harm. But it was a very long 9 months, and I couldn't wait, to start drinking again. So I was really white knuckling. And then when I was in my 40s, I got divorced and remarried. And that's when things changed, because my current husband is French, and the French have a very different attitude towards alcohol. They see it as something to have with food. And whereas the Brits, our attitude is, let's go out and have lots of drinks and lots of fun. And they don't really do that. So he was a bit perplexed about me putting away a bottle of wine a night. He said to me, "It's not good for you, that stuff, to drink so much of it. And I think you should cut down a bit." So then that started my decade of moderation. So I wanted this relationship to work. So I really tried hard. I had a little notebook, and every time I had a drink, I would write it in the notebook. And I researched what the low risk limits of alcohol were. And it was 1.5 bottles of wine a week. It still is. And I was horrified, because I was drinking that a night quite often. I thought, oh, how am I going to do this? So I started the control. It never occurred to me to quit, not for a moment. I thought I couldn't imagine my life without alcohol. So I carried on with all these crazy systems, and I could usually last until about Wednesday, and then the wheels would come off, and then I'd have a row with my husband. So it was quite a dark time. And when I look back, the whole of my 50s was consumed by this effort to cut down on my drinking. And also in my 50s, I have what I call my second wake-up call, which was breast cancer. When I was 55, I got breast cancer. Back then, to be fair, there wasn't a lot in the media about the link between alcohol and cancer, which is quite well known now. But back then, nobody really talked about it. And I didn't make any link at all. In fact, I probably stepped up my drinking a little bit with the thought, well, I'm going to die soon anyway. I was in a total panic, obviously. So no, I think I might have switched from white wine to red wine, because I read once that red wine is good for you. Another myth. So anyway, thankfully, I came through my cancer. It was hectic. I had mastectomy, chemotherapy, but I came through the other side. and I was still in my trying to cut down phase. And then my final wake-up call, so I always divide it into 3 wake-up calls: the bath and the cancer, and the third wake-up call was the blackout. It was, I mean, I'd been having blackouts for a long time because of the over drinking, but those blackouts weren't usually hectic apart from the bath. They were a bit, it just meant that the end of the evening was a bit blurry, and I'd wake up in the morning and I'd look around thinking, oh, is my jacket here? Is my handbag here? And often I couldn't quite remember the journey home a bit. So those were what I call the blurry blackouts. But this one was a walking, talking blackout, I guess rather similar to what happened with the bath. But in this time, I'd gone for a weekend with some friends to Paternoster, which is a beautiful little place on the west coast here. And we'd rented this lovely house between us. There are about 10 of us, all quite heavy drinkers, apart from my poor husband. So it started on we drank obviously on the Friday night when we arrived quite a lot. And then Saturday morning, it was champagne with breakfast. It was just one of those kind of weekends. And I was drinking all the way through Saturday. On Sunday morning, I woke up feeling dreadful, but obviously being British and having a stiff upper lip, I said that I was fine, but I was at breakfast trying to be chirpy. And I said to the guys, oh, let's go and look at this other house, because I'd read about another house in Paternoster that was also available for rent. I said, let's walk, you know, it's not too far to walk, let's go there. And there was this weird hush over the breakfast table. And one of them said, Janet, we went and we looked at that house yesterday and you were with us and you were walking and you were talking and you seemed absolutely normal. And that really scared me. So I sat and thought about it and realized that I'd actually lost about 6 hours of that day. About lunchtime, it was like a curtain had come down, black, no memories. And that really scared me. And I researched what these kind of blackouts mean. And it actually means that your brain is so soaked in alcohol that you can't even make memories. It's not that you've forgotten stuff. And I thought, what am I doing here? What am I doing to my brain? Because I think by that time, the cancer link with alcohol was coming out. And I acknowledged that the drinking had probably had something to do with the breast cancer. But I thought, I'm 63 years old, which I was then. What am I doing to my brain? You know, because when you get older, you want to stay sharp. And I thought, oh my God, I'm destroying myself here. So I said to my husband when we got back to Cape Town, I said, that's it, I'm done. No more drinking for me. And to be fair to him, he didn't say, oh, I've heard that before. He said, you've never said that before. He said, you've always said, I'm going to cut down, I'm going to cut down, I'm going to moderate. And that was my big, big mistake. And so many people are making that mistake day after day. Once I decided to cut down, made that decision, then, of course, I had to find out how to do it. But that's probably enough of an intro. I'll talk to you about how I did it if you'd like me to. But yeah, that's who I am, a Brit living in South Africa. I managed to get off the booze. And then I decided that because AA hadn't worked for me, I did go to AA, but I didn't like it. I thought there must be other people that want an alternative to AA. So I decided to help people do it the way that I'd done it, really. And that's when Tribe Sober was born 10 years ago.
Yeah, thanks, Janet. I think we can definitely get back to how to do it and how you did it, because it's phenomenal, your groups and how you do it. It's amazing. So I'd like to get back to that, but I just want to qualify what you've said by adding that you are a highly, highly functional person all the way through this. Am I right? Big job. It's not like you were on a park bench and hubby was going to work making the money. Am I right? You were still functioning very hard.
I've always had a career, always. And always gone to work every day. I remember once having to give an important presentation to a board of directors. I gave the presentation, and then I had to go to the bathroom and vomit afterwards because I was that hungover. I would always drag myself into work, whatever was happening, because that's how I convinced myself that I was fine. Because that's one of the questions they ask you on these "Are you an alcoholic?" quiz, don't they? They say, "Do you drink in the morning?" No. Do you ever take time off work? No. I'm fine then.
Yeah, it's such an interesting thing, the societal norms around alcohol. I want to get after this onto the real truth, the knowledge deficit in alcohol, the hard facts about alcohol and your health and your brain. But seeing we're talking now about drinking as a culture, I mean, even a homeopath told me I got cancer as well at 56, stage 4 cancer. I never even vaguely thought it was linked to alcohol, to be honest, until I came onto your groups and found out the real facts about alcohol. Because people drank. I knew I was drinking too much because I used to have quite bad hangovers. I never blacked out. I never did anything. I never had enough of a wake-up call, actually. But I used to get up at 5, go running, carry on with this highly functional life. And every time you say, "Oh, I need to quit drinking," people say, "But you're not a heavy drinker. There's nothing wrong with the way you drink. Why do you need to stop?" I never had a drink during the day in my life, maybe 5 times at lunch. But eventually I realized that alcohol wasn't good for me. But like you, the mistake I made, and that's what people need to learn from this podcast, is if you think you can moderate, it's very unlikely you won't be able to, actually. I mean, I also did a 10-year dance with alcohol, and a friend of mine who's now passed away convinced me that it's amazing to be a functional alcoholic. That's what we termed ourselves. I mean, like, yeah, we can drink hard and play hard, but we get up, we run, we go to work. And there's like a kind of like, wow, that's like amazing, you know. So there's so many people out there living that life. And what I didn't know until I went sober now for 3 months, actually, because the most I'd ever done before was 56 days. And I would moderate for a lot of the time. I mean, really moderate, like 2 glasses of wine on a Saturday, 2 on a Sunday. But a couple of weeks later or a month later, I'd find myself knocking back a bottle of whiskey with a friend. And it wasn't even that often. But then you wake up and you go, I shouldn't be doing this to myself. So you go back into that thought pattern that says, I can moderate. I can do this. Of course I can. That's all I have to get right here. And it's absolutely exhausting. You're right. So I'm so delighted to be part of a tribe of people now who are highly functioning people, most of them, very successful, sporty. It's not like they're not looking after their kids or their jobs, but they've all quit booze because they can't moderate, actually. So if you can moderate, good for you, but most of us can't. I also did a 10-year dance with that, and the mental gymnastics it creates is just also so stressful. And most of us, sorry, carry on. Yes, no, carry on.
I think that we all strive to be moderators, but what we really want is to be able to control it, because we've gone past that moderation stage. A true moderator is somebody that might have a glass of champagne at a wedding, or they might have a glass of good red wine with a special meal, but they don't think about alcohol. Not like we do. You know, we want to be able to control it. But a true moderator, alcohol isn't on their radar. And when I ran physical workshops, I'd often get people coming saying, I want you to teach me how to moderate. And I would be quite cruel, really. And I would say, I'm sorry, but if you're here, you can't moderate, because alcohol just doesn't feature on a true moderator's radar.
That is such important information. You're right, because as long as we're thinking that we can moderate and that's what we're striving for, then we've got a problem. I mean, I was not constantly, but I was thinking about alcohol almost all the time. I mean, when I was drinking daily, I was exceptionally healthy in other ways, but I couldn't wait till 7 o'clock at night when I could have my double whiskeys with soda, which I kid myself was really healthy on my vegetarian diet. And then when I started moderating, honestly, all I did was look for opportunities to drink. So I didn't keep it in my house.
Yes.
And but then I kept on finding reasons to go out because then I gave myself permission to drink. And I'd even go out on my own. It's like, it's a beautiful sunset. And Trent, you must go up to the cliffs and have a few glasses of wine. It was like I thought it was my happy space, and I knew I was using it to soothe my mental state because I'd already known for years my mental state was quite toxic. But I thought that wasn't even necessarily a bad thing. As long as I could moderate, it would be a good thing for me to have a few glasses of wine and calm my mind down. Well, yeah, it doesn't work, because this obsession, then we have this, I don't know if it happened to you for a long time, but where can I go? How am I going to drink? No, I can't drink. You can't have booze in your house. No, I can have a bottle. I won't drink it. I don't drink it for a week. And the next thing I'm reaching for one glass while I cook, and then I'm a bottle down. So that's the story. So just to contextualize it, what is the link between booze? Why are we putting this on this podcast? What is the link between alcohol, your physical and mental health, and your brain? So Janet, I'd love you to bring us just some of the real hard true facts about alcohol as a substance, which we kind of know, which we don't know, because when I had cancer, a homeopath who I highly respect told me to drink 2 glasses of organic red wine a night because it's full of silvestrol, and then I wouldn't need to buy expensive supplements. And so it's and then you do this dance when you want to drink, but you shouldn't. Also, you watch something on YouTube that says, but red wine's full of antioxidants. But what is the real truth about alcohol? Because there's actually a knowledge deficit out there. I heard you use that word. Can you tell us about the cancers, the diseases? Like, you've interviewed Tim Stockwell, who actually researches the link between cancer and booze, I think. Yeah. Is there a safe limit? I'm not sure there is. So I'd just love you to go into that so people can just know.
The cancer thing is a big one. And the shocking fact is that in 1988, the World Health Organization published a paper which said quite clearly that alcohol was a #1 carcinogen. But that's been kept hidden for years and years and years. And I think, big alcohol play a huge role in keeping this information from us, just as they do promoting nonsense like red wine is good for you. I mean, this resveratrol thing, you can get that from a bunch of grapes, and you'd have to drink a lot of wine to get anything that makes a difference, any nutrients. So there's so many myths about alcohol, and that's what keeps us drinking, alcohol, because you've seen it when someone has to or wants to give up drinking, all these limiting beliefs come out. How am I going to have fun without alcohol? How am I going to socialize? All these things that keep us blocked. But yeah, the cancer is a huge one. And I'm delighted that I think slowly it's coming out into the public domain now. And there is a definite move towards not drinking, certainly from the young ones. In the UK, about 25% of young people don't touch the stuff. So I think they've seen what it's been doing to their parents. But yeah, the cancer is huge. 7 types of cancer, more than 60 diseases. And you may have heard Tim Stockwell say that because the stats tell us that 3 million people a year die from alcohol-related causes. And I talked to him on that because it always strikes me that when we had COVID, 3 million people died during one of the years of COVID, and the whole world came to a halt, and we all had to stay and hide in our houses, and it was hectic. But every year, that amount of people die through alcohol-related causes. And what happens, you know, the marketing machine pumps more and more out, more and more people die. But Tim Stockwell, who is a scientist and he's very into the statistics of it all, he says that this 3 million people that die of alcohol-related causes is a vast underestimate, because on most of the death certificates, it says things like cancer or other things, and people don't make that link. So he says it's more like 6 million, which is scandalous, really. So that's the cancer. I mean, a lot of physical issues are caused by alcohol, but the mental health, I don't think I had any idea about that until I researched my blackout about alcohol and our mental health, which I think a lot of people don't connect the dots at all with that. But it's absolutely the worst thing we can do for anxiety to drink, because many of us started drinking because we were a bit socially anxious, perhaps. And then as we get into midlife, there's all the challenges, the empty nest, and people tend to drink at home at that stage. And there's a meme that I like, that I use quite a lot, that says drinking alcohol is like pouring gasoline on your anxiety. So it makes it worse and worse. And depression as well, it's a depressant. So there's so many reasons we'll be better off without it when it comes to our mental health. And sleep, and we all need our sleep, especially as we get older, and you get such low quality sleep when you drink. I mean, a few glasses of wine in the evening might kind of sedate you and knock you out, but you're not getting good quality sleep. And you get something like 2 cycles of REM sleep rather than 7. And that's the quality sleep that really makes you feel refreshed in the morning. So sleep is a huge one. And of course, it dehydrates us. And they say that 1 glass of wine robs your body of the equivalent of about 4 or 5 glasses of water. So as we get older and older, I mean, if we're drinking every night, all these things kind of mount up, you know, the sleep, we build up fatigue. And that's what many of our members say after they've been sober for a while. They say, oh, I'm sleeping like a baby, and it's such a joy, it's such a benefit. And it might take a while for your sleeping patterns to adjust, but once they do, the sleep is a huge benefit, I think.
Yeah, the anxiety thing is, gosh, it's made such a difference to me. Yeah, in the beginning, it feels a bit worse and the sleep doesn't happen well. But 3 months down the line, I had a lot of anxiety the last few years. It's been underpinning my whole life. But I don't know if it was age or what it was, but I started being very anxious for no reason, actually. And I wasn't sleeping well at all. And that's the reason why I joined Tribe Sober. And I was like, because I've got a mental, mental illness is the closet, the elephant in the room, and it's been locked in the closet, actually. And when I say mental illness, I'm not talking about a raging schizophrenic or a psychopathic person who goes around punishing cats or something. I'm talking about that a lot. 70% in America of Americans are on psychiatric drugs. And yeah, there's a mental disease. It's a terrible word, so we don't even have to use it. But people have mental states that are unknowingly have mental states that are extremely difficult. So I was diagnosed with borderline personality officially only a few years ago. And I had no idea it was running my life, because I was highly, highly functional person. And borderline people are mostly women. And they're very, very, very high achievers. So it's very masked. So I always joke on my podcast, I was a very functional dysfunctional. Because like alcohol, as long as you're achieving high, so you've got a good job. I had a very good business. I was traveling the world. I had a lot of friends. I did the dinner parties and I fasted in India and all that stuff. It's like, well, there's nothing wrong with you, Antoinette. You're absolutely fine. But underpinning, in fact, that was one of my coping mechanisms, Janet. And maybe people like all of us And the drinking fits in with that because the whole day I was busy from 5 in the morning, either exercising, achieving, studying, traveling. And then at night, I'd soothe myself with alcohol. So I just never even knew what was underpinning my psyche, actually underpinning all this busyness. So, yeah, and alcohol, you can't touch alcohol if you've got any kind of mood disorder.
No.
And the reason I talk about this mood disorder that I have is because people need to know that there's probably 5 out of 10 people out there that have got something on a continuum, some kind of mental state. I'm just brave enough to talk about it, and I've had a diagnosis, and the psychiatrist told me not to touch alcohol. She said any mood disorder, alcohol, one glass will just take you right over the edge. And I didn't even listen to that. So the point I'm trying to make here, and I didn't even intend to speak about this, is people are running their lives, high achievers, working hard, are doing all kinds of amazing things and drinking, and they don't realize that when you stop drinking, what also happens is you start. I'd already seen it 8 years ago. It was my journey to heal cancer. But since I've stopped drinking, I've seen even more of it because it comes up when you're not numbing, soothing, avoiding, denying, trying to escape from any hard feelings, any past trauma that needs to be healed. And unfortunately, the path to being the best version of yourself, spiritual, psychological, on every level, is to do the hard yards, to look at the hard feelings. As your beautiful coach says, what did she say? What's wrong with hard? I mean, the best life comes on the back of discomfort. But we're all trying to avoid that because what's underpinning this lifestyle we have is that we just don't feel okay inside.
Yeah.
So
And alcohol, I heard alcohol described as the easy button the other day. I thought that was quite good. We get home, I deserve a drink, of course we do. And it's the easy button and it numbs all our feelings away.
And also, Janet, if we're people like me, and please, 80% of the world's like me, so I've just gone on a very deep journey to heal my borderline, actually, which hasn't been easy, and I've gone far down that path. But people like me, and most people are like me, even if they're not this extreme, is they want to be liked. They want to fit in. They're people pleasers. They're codependent. So the thought of not drinking, even now when I joined your tribe, was horrifying because I was like, nobody's going to like me anymore. Where am I going to go? Who am I going to spend time with? All my very good mates drink. Everybody drinks where I live. And I'm like, I'm just going to be lonely. Just going to have to sit at home in isolation. And so it's very hard for people who have an unconscious limiting belief that says they're not worthy or they can't be brave enough to be authentic or they can't be different. They're just going to want to fit in, even if they don't think they like that.
Yes. And society doesn't help, of course, by making non-drinkers feel as if they are a bit strange, a bit odd one out. And with the combination of the marketing, and every time you watch a movie, they're all drinking their wine or their whiskey, and every time you see an advertisement, you know, the wine is always there. So we've been played, especially women, I think, for decades now, that we deserve a glass of wine, especially if we work hard and we play hard. So there's all that going on. So I think you need a lot of courage to make this decision and to go out there. And the only way that you can conquer these limiting beliefs is really to do it. So I hope that you have been out and mixed with these people and drunk an alternative drink, because gradually, if you keep doing that, then your subconscious mind will accept that it's okay and you can go out and socialize and have fun and drink and not drink. So it's...
Well, I mean, the astounding thing is, Janet, my mind created the story is that people would try and pressurize me to drink, that they wouldn't invite me out. And I can honestly say I live in a place with some very heavy drinkers, and not one of them has tried to pressurize me to drink.
That's
Not
great.
one. So my
Yeah.
mind created that whole story. They
Yeah.
actually come to me and say, "Wow, why are you doing this?" And they listen and they support me. And the other fascinating thing is, Janet, I don't talk about this on the tribe because it's quite deep, but I was not able to replace my drinking with another addiction, because that's what people like us do. We go then we stop the booze and then we do food, or because I've had this allergy reaction. So I couldn't swap booze with chocolate or things like that. And do you know how sad that made me feel? I was like, my life's just going to be terrible now. I can't drink, and I can't reach for the chocolate and the pizza and all of that. So my body, bless my body, through this allergy, stopped me in my tracks from doing all these habitual coping mechanisms where I was reaching for safety through wine and then through food. So I had to really go down a lot of layers to figure out, why do I have to reach for gluttony? And I only eat healthy foods. I've never got fat. That's the other thing. When you're very functional, dysfunctional, people go, but you're thin. And I'm like, well, you just don't understand. But so I realized, because it felt like a safe space for me. And
Yeah.
actually, I need to find safety within myself. And for me, with the higher power that I believe in, and that's the only space is going to be real safety. So, and you can't really do this deep inner work. Listen, I'm not saying I did this deep inner work on booze. I tried to limit it, but having come off the booze, it's gone to a whole new level. And so it's got harder in a way. But geez, has it been transformative? Because
Yeah.
on the other side of all of that lies the joy, and we have to do the hard yard. So it's been the best thing I ever did for myself,
Oh,
really.
that's good to hear. Yeah, I think one of the things that people don't realize is that if you've been trying to moderate for a decade, as many people have, when you do this thing, I mean, it's really hard for 3 months, as we all know, but then it gets easier and easier. And then you find yourself, your energy comes back because you're sleeping for the first time in years, and your curiosity comes back, and your creativity comes back, and you've got so much free time and energy to put in something else, because the mental space is clear again. And I think that's so true for so many people, and that's why we see so many of our members, doing amazing things and having hobbies that they never did before, getting in touch with their creativity. And there is a period, I think, in early sobriety where you feel a bit flat, because your brain has been excited about this new project, getting sober, but after 3-4 months, you're thinking, okay, I'm sober now. What do I do next? So there is a phase there where you need to be looking, I think, for some kind of project. I mean, my project was Tribe Sober, so that's kept me going for 10 years. But it's good to have a project. You need to develop another passion, and just ditch alcohol as your passion.
So I love that you also interviewed people that are neuroscientists or brain people, and they talked about that. Yeah, in order for the brain to be happy, we have to have some passion
Yeah,
and purpose and focus. And we do when we drink, but actually there's a whole new level
yeah,
there's a whole new life. I can't remember the words you used, but there's a whole new exciting life on the other side of dropping an addiction, actually.
yeah,
But we've been truly, deeply hypnotized, not just
yeah.
conditioned into being okay with alcohol. And so, Janet, maybe I think we've given enough evidence to see that quitting the booze, like all this inner work, might be tough. It's not an easy thing to do, but on the other side of it lies a very different, better life, I can tell you. So, could you tell us, a Tribe Sober is an extraordinary model that you've got going there? Well done. It integrates, it doesn't judge drinking, it doesn't force you to quit, it doesn't but it gives you, what are the whys? Why should you stop drinking? So maybe talk us through how you do Tribe Sober and why it's so successful, because I see people in those groups from all over the world, and they're
Yes,
very,
yes.
very high level, interesting people, and it really works what you do. So tell us what you do and how you do it, and maybe how you got to doing it.
Yes, I mean, I'll take you back to how I quit drinking, in that I was here in South Africa when I made this momentous decision, and I thought, okay, fine, I'm going to quit, but how on earth do I do that? So I trotted along to my local AA meeting. I thought, well, that's where you go if you've got a drink problem. I didn't know where else to go. And I really didn't like it at all. It was quite male orientated, and they were all telling their hectic stories, you know, and they all seemed to drink in the morning and they've lost everything. And I actually left that meeting wondering if I had a problem at all, because there was I with my wine in the evening, and I wasn't in their league at all. So I tried a few other meetings thinking maybe I just got a bad meeting, but I just couldn't find my people. And that's why sometimes I say that's my biggest sobriety tip. Find your people, find people, because Tribe Sober was all about community. So after I couldn't get on with AA, I wasn't drinking, I have to say. I had managed to white knuckle it, but I wasn't, happy at all. I was suffering every single day. Sheer willpower I was using, which, as we know, doesn't last. So I was looking online all the time for some help, and I found a workshop in London, a one-day workshop, and I was due to go over there anyway. So I thought, oh, I'll just check this thing out, and it was quite good. There were just 12 women there, and it was run by a nurse that had actually worked in one of these end-stage liver wards, so she'd seen for herself how dreadful it was. But the irony was that she used to go out drinking with the other nurses at night. So anyway, she managed to quit, and she was there to talk to us about all the health reasons and that we should quit. And I was pretty shocked, actually, because I had no idea just how bad this stuff was for me. But it wasn't that did it. What did it for me from that day is meeting those other ladies, because unlike AA, they were people like me, that had good jobs and nice families. So we swapped numbers, came back to South Africa, and we had a little WhatsApp group, of course. And every single day we talked to each other. And that's what did it for me. So it was connection being the opposite of addiction. So then I was about 4 or 5 months sober, and I had this really low mood because I was kind of missing some of my drinking buddies and feeling a bit lost because my life had changed so drastically and I had more time on my hands. So that's when I started thinking, oh, well, have I made the right decision here? But I felt like I'd painted myself into a corner, because husband kept saying how proud he was of me, and son kept saying how proud he was of me. And I thought, oh no, what am I going to do? But I made a decision to just sit with it. And that is a big tip that I would say to anybody that is feeling a bit low in early sobriety, because I call it the early sobriety blues now. Just sit with it, because we actually tap into this space in our brain which is called liminal space, and that's where a lot of creativity comes from. So it's a magical place. So however low you feel, just sit there, but do explore various things that you can do, because to me, I used to walk a lot, I used to exercise a lot, and I'd be walking along by the sea here, and I'd have all these ideas, and I used to stop and put them in my phone because I thought, I don't want to forget this one and this one. And I was literally bursting with ideas. That's when my creativity came back, because it had just been dormant for a long time. And one of those ideas was to create a workshop for people how to give up drinking, because my professional background is in human resources, training and development and coaching in corporate. So I had the skills. I designed and run hundreds of workshops in my time. So I designed this one-day workshop, and we looked at, I obviously went through the health things and then a few tips on behavior change. And I just put an ad in Facebook, and I got a hotel room, and it was sold out within a few hours. So I thought, wow, there's a real need for this. So I just started doing the physical workshops back then. I did one in Cape Town. I used to do them in Cape Town, Joburg, and London as well. I would go back and run them there. So that's how it all started. And then the coaching, I used to do a lot of coaching. And then I found Lynette because she came to one of my workshops in Joburg. So she became our coach. And then it was the pandemic, so we had to go digital then. And I remember thinking, oh, these workshops, they're not going to work online, because physically people would do their shares and there'd be lots of tears and then there'd be hugging and there'd be such deep bonding. I thought, how is that going to work online? But amazingly, it did. And we were also able to go much more international. So we got people from all over the world. And then I started podcasting on my 5th soberversary, and that really helped the international thing with the UK and the US hearing me on the podcast and then joining. So that's how it came about. And yeah, I mean, connection is that's everything. We give people knowledge as well, because I really feel knowledge is power. So they need the knowledge. So they can either come to one of our online workshops, which we call Masterclass now, or they can join our 3-month intensive program, which is Breaking Free. But all new members get access to something called a member journey. So every day it's just a little bite-sized piece of information for them to take them sequentially through what they need to learn. And they have access to something called the Members Vault, which means they can search any topic about this and they'll find what they're looking for. So we give people knowledge and we give them community, and that's the biggest one. Have you seen the Zoom meetings? We now have 3 in the week and 1 on Saturday. They're very popular, as are the WhatsApp groups. And the other thing, of course, that we give people that works is accountability. I mean, we're always talking about people's soberversaries when we've got a big spreadsheet with everybody's sobriety date on, you know, when they stopped drinking and when it really stuck. And then that means we can celebrate the soberversaries. And the WhatsApp groups are, well, they're accountability groups, we call them. We've got an onboarding course, an onboarding group for new people, their first 30 days. And then they go to 30 days plus and then 6 months plus. As they get more sober, they mix with different people. And we've always got our cheerleaders in there. We've got cheerleaders and ambassadors. Because one thing that I wasn't expecting when I started Tribe Sober, which has been a lovely surprise, is that I thought people would leave and they'd get sober. I thought they'd join, they'd get sober and they'd leave, or they'd join and they couldn't do it and they'd leave. But we've got loads of people that have joined, got sober and then stayed because they love the community, and now they're giving back to new people and sharing their journeys with the new people. So it's this lovely kind of evolving model. So yeah, we give people knowledge and accountability, but most of all community. Community is the heart of Tribe Sober, because when you stop drinking, you leave your drinking tribe and you need a new tribe, because it's a human need, isn't it, to have a group that talks your language, that you can relate to, that you can ask for help. So that's how it works.
And for 200 or for a small amount of money, I don't want to say the cost, but it's a small amount of money, you can join your community and have access to that portal. I don't know what you call it, with all the information.
Yes.
And
yes,
you can come to the group meetings.
Mm-hmm.
And the quality of what you do also centers around the quality of the information you give out, because there's so much information out there, Janet.
There is. I mean, people could spend all day on the internet finding all this information, but what we've done over the last decade is we've curated that information into what we know is true and what you need to know when you're giving up. We try not to give it all to everybody on day one so that they can work their way through it.
Yeah, your model is exceptional. And on the community groups, the incredible thing is the people that are ahead of those of us that have just started have just got so much wisdom and practical advice
Yeah,
to offer.
yeah.
So
And when we get sober, a lot of us, we become so passionate about sobriety that we really want other people to do it and to come and discover just how lovely it
I'm
is.
holding myself back big time from trying to get my drinking friends to understand how amazing it is, because I know at some stage I read some of the quit lit for years and years. I tried to quit and I really didn't think I had to, because I'm moderated. So I'm trying not to be a rah, you got to do this. But that's why the podcast will be amazing. And how does this link to your physical health? Because that's what we're about. Well, it's obvious, the physical side effects. I've just been diagnosed for years now. I've had health issues, but not major until they became major this year. And I started passing out and having gastrointestinal problems and a bad allergy. And I finally got to the bottom of it, and it's my pancreas. My pancreas is not excreting enzymes. So they will do further tests. I'm pretty sure I don't have cancer or pancreatitis, but if I do, those are very serious things. I don't think I have. But yeah, I Googled, which we should never do, but alcohol and cigarettes are a very, very big lifestyle factor in affecting your pancreas. So my poor body, my body yet again had to show me, because the body never lies. It had to show me
No,
internet.
no. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
look,
wonderful what happens when we stop poisoning ourselves on a daily basis. I mean, our bodies and our brains are amazing. If we just get out of their way and stop poisoning ourselves, they will heal. And that's a wonderful thing about recovery. That's I did an interview with I think she's a psychiatrist at Stanford, and part of her job is to analyze the brains of people in recovery. She puts them through some kind of scan, and the alcoholic brain looks very, very different to a recovering brain, and it physically changes. And it takes a while. It takes about a year. But then if you start drinking again, it just goes back pretty quickly. So you have to keep it going. But yeah, our bodies and brains can recover. And I think
and a
as we
lot.
sorry,
No, you carry on. Sorry, as
I was
we.
just going to say, as we get older, I think it's absolutely the best thing that we can do for ourselves, for our health, our looks, our happiness, everything really.
And also the world, there are so many people with dementia now and Alzheimer's, and my mother's got vascular dementia, and believe me, you don't want to get it. And also if we link very much the psychological state and organ energetics and all that to physical health. And I can tell you now, as long as you're drinking or your addiction's running your show, it's very hard to do the psychological work and the inner work to help your body heal on that level. And yes, the absolute, if I had known, I honestly can't believe I didn't know, because I was a very well studied, healthy person, what I was doing to my body with alcohol. And it can take 20 or 30 years. You don't get a pancreatic problem like I've got now in 1 week. This has been brewing for years and years and years.
Yeah, yeah.
So yes, Janet, thank you for showing up today. And thank you for what you're doing, because it's astounding. So I'm going to put a link to Tribe Sober in the show notes, and anything else you want me to, so people can contact you. And this journey won't just be about sobriety. It will be reuniting with who you really are, your higher self, creating the best life for yourself. And we definitely don't want to mess up our brains. That is for
No
sure.
way.
And when we're older, 50s, 60s, we might already have done the damage, but if we stop, we've got a much higher chance of getting to the Alzheimer's, dementia, cancer. So thank you, Janet.
Thank
Appreciate
you,
you.
Antoinette. Lovely to chat.
Bye.
Bye.